Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Let's go, Monday.
Jonathan Voico.
Yeah, Monday.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, comment, observation, or question you'd like us to address, and as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on our show, you can go ahead and send it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Now, here's the great news about this tip link. Even if you're watching this show later on in the day after we're not on live anymore, this tip link is good 24 hours a day. So if you have a theory or question you'd like us to address, go ahead and send it on in 24/7, and we'll just get around to it on our next episode. Again, as long as we consider it appropriate to be used on our show. Hey, I want to give you guys a heads up. Most of you guys know this, but I am still dealing with the after effects. For those of you who've watched me for a couple of years, you know that when I get sick, I get over being sick pretty quick, but then the cough hangs in there for like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm still dealing with a cough, so you're gonna have to forgive me, but I'm gonna be using the halls throughout the show and sipping more on my hot chocolate. It's just the way it's got to be, so I apologize for that. I also want to remind you guys that the John Campea Show podcast is primarily really a podcast, and if you need your daily fix of the John Campea Show, you can't always be in front of a YouTube video. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're at work, and you need an audio fix. Good news. The audio version of the John Campea Show podcast is available on your favorite podcasting app of choice, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Go and find it today and subscribe to it now, so when you do need it, it'll be there for you. Also, want to remind you guys that we do have the John Campea Show newsletter that goes out every day. The newest installment of it is out right now. And, I write a little editorial every day, give you some announcements. Here's one of the cool things, though, is that we don't have time to go over all the news and stories going on in the world of entertainment, but I do hours of reading every day, going through my news feeds and everything, finding stuff for the show. So what I do is I curate what I think are 5, 6, or 7 of the other really interesting stories going on. I give you a link to them. I break down the story for you in easy to digest point form, give you the links so you can go read the full article if you'd like. That's all in there. And also we include, just in case you missed them, the links to the individual videos from our previous episode. So all that's there. Go and find it. Subscribe to it today. All right. Before we get into our news stories, though, just wanted to mention this. So I did an open mic yesterday. And one of my key things on the open mic was talking about how Disney D23 just embarrassed Comic-Con Hall H. Now, Disney and Marvel, they put on great presentations wherever they are. Once they're on stage and they're making a presentation, they're great. I mean, D23 is run worse than a fourth grader's end of the year pageant. I mean, it's always an administrative nightmare and a mess, and they're terrible at it. Disney runs terrible live events, but their presentations are great. They're great at Comic-Con. They're great at D23 when they do their presentations. But I've been saying for years, guys, back me up. Have I not been saying for years that Hall H is simply too small for the big presentations at Comic-Con? 120,000 people go to Comic-Con. Only 5% of the people who go can fit into Hall H because it can only hold up to 6,000 people. Take a look at this. That's Hall H. That's a big room, right? Right? That's a big room. You know what's a bigger room? Honda Center. This was the Hall H presentation at Comic-Con. This is the Disney presentation. What's the difference? They knew the big event needed to be in a big room. And they, even though it was like 4 miles away from the convention center, that's fine. The attendees of D23 got in their cars, got in their Ubers, got in their cabs, went over to Honda Center and packed out the Honda Center. And 4 times the amount of people who can go attend something in this room could go and be at this one. That doesn't mean that everybody who went to D23 got to be in the main event, but a lot more people did. And the result was a much more rock concert kind of an atmosphere. The pops were bigger. The energy was higher. Listen, in San Diego, there's no less than like 4 venues that can hold over 20,000 people. Mm-hmm. There's Snapdragon Stadium that can hold 35,000 people. There's an arena that can hold 20,000 people. Right across the street is Petco Field. Like literally across the street, that can hold 42,000 people. I really hope that the people at Comic-Con paid close attention to what just happened at D23. Comic-Con puts on a much better event than D23. Make no mistake about it. They're 1,000 times better than D23. But when it comes to the presentation, Disney D23 just spanked Comic-Con because they actually put it in an appropriate venue. And I really hope that Comic-Con pays attention and that they correct this next year and hold it in one of those stadiums, auditoriums, arenas that are in the San Diego area and move their big major, not all of them, just the big major ones. If Marvel's doing a presentation, put that there. If James Gunn brings a big DC presentation next year, put it in Petco, put it in Snapdragon, put it in one of the amphitheaters. Put it somewhere where you can hold more than just 5% of your audience. How about that? Anyway, I just summed up open mic from yesterday. So there was that. Anyway, guys, with that little diatribe out of the way, let's get into our main topics here today, shall we? And we're going to start off with this. Borderlands. Ooh. The highly anticipated Eli Roth, Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart film, nay, masterpiece. Released in theaters this weekend. Wasn't very good. I mean, listen, it's not the worst film of the year. The movie has some upside. There are some decent moments, I suppose, but overall, it's a bad film. It's a really bad film. Now, there were the opening weekend projections that it said it could get $10 to $20 million opening weekend, probably in that $15 million range. I think a couple of people in this room thought it would get to that $15 million. It happens.
It did worldwide.
Yeah. Fueled by an absolutely horrendously bad marketing campaign and fueled by horrendously bad critic reviews. Borderlands right now, after all the reviews are now in, stands at a mighty 9%.
All right, it's climbed up from 3.
Tripled
to 3%. It's climbed all the way up to 9%. Borderlands has bowed in a $115 million movie to an $8.8 million opening weekend. Let me repeat that. Borderlands, a movie that cost $115 million to make, made $8.8 million at the box office. I think there are a number of things that went into this. Number one, it was super badly promoted. Number two, they've literally been talking about this movie for 5 years. I think a lot of people were already under the assumption the movie came out in theaters already years ago. They made a really bad movie. I mean, so there's a lot of things that accumulated up. And don't give me the excuse, it only did badly because Deadpool's in theaters. Guess what? It Ends With Us came out in theaters this weekend and made $50 million while Deadpool was in theaters. So don't give me that excuse. It's really bad. 8.8 million. I want you to wrap your head around this too. They spent a paltry $30 million on marketing this film. That's not enough. So with marketing and the budget, we'll round it up a bit. You're roughly looking at a movie that cost them $150 million to put into theaters. That means this movie needs to make somewhere in the $225 to $230 million range to break even. And its worldwide total after its first weekend is $16 million. And this is going to be the biggest weekend they have. It's only going to get smaller from here.
I can't believe the last Borderlands game was released in 2019.
Has it been that long ago?
Yeah, it's definitely.
It doesn't feel like that long ago.
Definitely, if you're going to get the fandom into a theater, you got to make the movie a lot closer to when the game was
And
released.
this isn't even going to be like a 50% drop
I
next
was
week.
hoping there was still a following.
It's going to be worse.
Yeah, I was hoping there was still a
Oh,
game.
no, you're talking about a 60 to 70% drop because the word of mouth is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible word of mouth. Like we're looking at a movie that very well could end up losing like $170 million. Think about that.
Sorry, Lionsgate.
Sorry, yeah. But I mean, they dropped the ball so many times on this. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, they need about 225 to 230 just to break even. And they're going to be lucky if they get to 40. They're going to be lucky if they get to 40. It is unbelievable how much of a flop this is. And listen, I take no joy in this, in announcing this, because I'm a big fan of Eli Roth. Cate Blanchett is a top 2 or 3 greatest actresses of all time. Jamie Lee Curtis is an Academy Award winner. Kevin Hart isn't for everybody, but I like Kevin Hart. And so it gives me no joy about, oh my God, did this movie fall on its face? Unbelievable. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, a lot of people knew it was going to flop, but I didn't hear a lot of people guessing under $10 million. Made 8.8 in its opening weekend, needs 225 to 230 to break even. What do you think about this? Did you go out to see it? What did you think of the movie? Maybe you liked it. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, of course, D23 was the big Disney entertainment presentation was Friday night. And by the way, we got to give a big shout out and thanks to everybody because, you know, as a movie show, there are not many movie shows on YouTube that are live. And when they're live, have over 2,000 live viewers watching along. We're not the only ones, but it's rare. Not many people do. And we get 2, sometimes 3, hell, even once in a while, we'll hit 4,000 people watching live. But on Friday night, as we were doing our live streaming reactions to the news coming out of D23 at the Disney Entertainment presentation, we hit a record for the channel. We had over 13,000 people watching live at one point. That is by far the biggest live audience we've ever had on the channel watching live at the same time. So a big thank you to all you guys who joined us live for that. It was a great fun night and a great experience. Now, a couple of big things came out of there. We won't cover all of them again. We'll talk about a couple on today's show, but one of them was this. Daredevil Born Again, as Deadline runs this headline. Daredevil Born Again trailer shows Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock going head-to-head. Season 2 shooting soon. So here's the interesting thing about D23. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. No, it's not unusual.
I knew it.
For a Marvel panel, be it a D23, Comic-Con, whatever, that they'll show some stuff and then put some of that stuff online right away. But it's also not unusual for them to show some stuff that they then don't put online. Now, Comic-Con, they have strict rules about not taking out your phones, and they'll take down things that go online very quickly. But in the Honda Center, they never expressed, from what I hear from people who were there, they never said people couldn't take out their phones. And they don't seem to be policing very hard, taking down people who are putting some of the exclusive footage up online on YouTube. Well, the Daredevil Born Again trailer is one of those things that got put up online on YouTube. Granted, it's not great viewing. It's cell phone footage, so it's not shot very great. But hey, it's there. And you know what? It looks great. It had all the texture, all the DNA, all the feel of the Netflix original series. Now, of course, you guys remember when they first started making Daredevil Born Again, it was not a continuation of the Netflix series. It was a totally new thing. Yes, Charlie Cox was playing Matt, and yes, Vincent D'Onofrio was still playing Kingpin, but it was not the same Daredevil as it was from Netflix. Hence, we had a new actress playing Vanessa. We weren't going to have Foggy. We weren't going to have Karen, all that kind of stuff. And then Kevin Feige got his power back, decided what they're making right now, what we're making with Daredevil Born Again is not good enough. They scrapped production, kept some stuff, but basically went back to square one and said, now this is a continuation of the Netflix Daredevil. Now it is. So they replaced the new actress playing Vanessa and went out and got the former, the Netflix woman who played Vanessa, brought her back in. They put Foggy and Karen back in it and all that kind of stuff. And they decided to go right zero in on the DNA of the original series. This trailer thumped, man. This Daredevil Born Again trailer absolutely thumped. We get to look at Frank, Punisher. We get to look at White Tiger. We get a great scene, a great look at Matt and Wilson Fisk in a diner, having to come to a very stressful truce because there's a threat in New York City that both of them want to deal with. Muse, which, by the way, if you haven't read about, Muse is a relatively new character,
Right.
a new villain in the Daredevil comics, but is a terrifying character. Absolutely terrifying. Who doesn't like Daredevil and doesn't like Fisk. And both of them acknowledge we got to deal with this. We got to deal with this problem. But how are we going to deal with it? Because we still don't like each other. It was great. And then the second half of this Daredevil trailer was just all violence. Pure, rapid cut, different people that Daredevil is beating the living crap out of.
So I brought up the Punisher the other day, and I said, will they go that far in the violence? Does this trailer tell us anything or tell you anything, John?
Well,
Different kinds of violence, right?
Yeah.
Because in Punisher is shooting people in the face with bullets and making their heads explode. In Daredevil, Matt is punching them in the face.
We still don't get that sense if they'll go that far yet.
well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
they
Yeah.
threw that one guy in front of the subway.
And
Well, that was White Tiger.
Yeah.
And he goes to jail for it.
Well, okay, so he got punished for it, so it's okay. PG-13. He
Yeah.
got punished.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, listen, it definitely has the same feel as the Daredevil show on Netflix. Now, is it going to be pushing R-rated? It's definitely going to push R-rated. Are they going to drop a lot of F-bombs? Are they going to have any nudity? Are they going to, I mean, that stuff I don't know yet.
I doubt it.
But just the trailer alone totally felt like the Netflix series of Daredevil.
That one scene you spoke about where they're sitting across from each other in the diner, to me it felt like they were trying to harken back to when Matt Murdock first visited Fisk in prison. And he didn't quite understand Fisk's abilities or whatever, and he was slammed into the table, remember? And he got all... But now, he's wizened up to
Well,
Fisk. And so now he's like, I'm watching you.
But here's the question I'm going to have. Wilson Fisk in the Netflix series did not have superpowers,
I still think they dialed that back from...
right? He didn't have superpowers in the Netflix series. In Disney Plus, in the Hawkeye series, he's superhuman. He can do things human beings cannot do. He has superpowers. So my question is, when we get to this series, when we get to Daredevil Born Again, are they going to revert him back to the true Kingpin that we had in the Netflix series? Or are they going to include the additions of superpowers that he got in the Hawkeye series? And that they then alluded to more in the Echo series. Like, which Daredevil are we going to, which Kingpin? I assume we're not going to get Hawaiian shirt wearing Kingpin.
Yeah, I think they're dialing that back.
Yeah, I think they're done with that. I don't think there's going to be any mention in Daredevil of the tracksuit mafia. Bro. Mew shows up. I want to kill people.
Bro.
Kingpin. Bro. Like, I don't think there's going to be any mention of the tracksuit mafia. I don't think we're going to see Kingpin wearing any Hawaiian shirts. But is he going to have the superpowers? And by the way, King Daddy Go to saying, I love the Tracksuit Mafia. You know what, brother? You and me both. I love the Tracksuit Mafia, but they're totally silly and ridiculous and don't fit into the world of Daredevil. At least not the Daredevil from the Netflix series.
Yeah, I think there'll be a bit of a reeling back. I think he's going to be strong, but I don't think he's going to be like superhuman. Like he can withstand a blast of an explosion.
I mean, but they made him strong in the Netflix series, right? Like he was super strong.
Yeah, I think
like he straight up beat Frank Castle in a fist fight.
Yep.
In that,
and he could just grab people, and
But can he lift up cars?
No,
I don't.
Can he rip the doors off of cars?
That would.
Can he survive a bullet, a gunshot to the face at point blank range?
Merely a flesh wound.
Well, we could also see there was like, didn't Daredevil have some sort of?
He was leveled up too.
Yeah, leveled up, especially in She-Hulk. Didn't we see a little bit more?
But that's kind of comic accurate, right?
Okay,
he was kind of that way.
It is comic accurate.
He was kind of that way in the Netflix series too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing about Daredevil. He's supposed to have superhuman heightened senses and has radar vision and all that kind of stuff. But they made a change in Kingpin from Netflix to Disney Plus. We'll see how they carry that over. Anyway, I thought the trailer was great. Question is for you guys. Did you have a chance to see the Daredevil trailer? If so, what did you think? Do you agree with me that it really did feel like the Netflix series? Maybe you're noticing a difference in tone. What do you think they're going to do about Kingpin? Is he going to be just big, badass Kingpin from Netflix? Or is he going to be the Hawaiian shirt wearing, super-powered Kingpin, taking bullets to the face and doesn't even have a scratch anymore? No scars. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? You know, the other day, a few days ago, Bob Iger had an investors call. On that call, he went over the upcoming release schedule for Disney films through 2025 and beyond. He mentioned a lot of films. Talked about Zootopia, talked about Fantastic Four, Captain America. But there is a film that was supposedly coming out in November of 2025.
Which?
That he very noticeably left absent in his discussion. That was Blade. Now, this comes to us from Gaming Bible, who wrote this. Here's the exact quote from Bob Iger. In 2025, our theatrical slate remains just as robust, with Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, The Fantastic Four, First Steps, Zootopia 2, and Avatar 3. And in 2026, we look forward to Avengers Doomsday, a new Star Wars movie featuring The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Toy Story 5. Want to point something out. In case you missed it, nowhere in that little conversation did Big Papa Iger ever mention the man who is retired, Blade, retired before he even starred in his first film.
And he didn't make the cut.
Blade didn't make the cut. Blade, of course, was announced 5 years ago at a Comic-Con Hall H panel with several other projects. All of the other projects have been filmed, released in theaters, and are now out on home video. Blade still hasn't happened. And now, Bob Iger isn't even mentioning it. This has started speculation around the internet that Disney has very quietly canceled the Blade film. Now, it wouldn't be a tremendous surprise if that's true. Bob Iger said some time ago, remember we talked about it on the show, Bob Iger put out a statement saying, you know, we're going to cut back on the amount of projects we're doing. We've already, as a matter of fact, we've already canceled some projects that we haven't publicized. Blade is years overdue. They've gone through several sets of directors, several sets of writers. It was supposed to now come out November of 2025. I was half expecting, you guys know this, I said this on the show, I was expecting Disney at D23 to at least give an update on Blade. Mm-hmm. Maybe mention that, hey, we got a new director. We got a thrilling new direction with our script. But to make sure we get it right, we have now moved it from November 2025 to 2026 or something like that. Just some kind of an update.
Right. Especially with Coogler there, I thought, oh, maybe they're going to make some transition here.
Dude, when Coogler came out on stage for Ironheart, I thought there's no way he's not coming out to announce Blade.
Instead, we got monster trucks.
Instead, the hierarchy of power in the Disney family world has now forever changed as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is bringing us monster trucks. But, I mean, nothing. So if you're one of those people out there, sorry, Monster Jam.
Oh, monster, yeah, but there's trucks in it, I'm told.
If you're one of those people, some people in the live chat are trying to correct me. John, it's Monster Jam, not Monster Truck. Like any of you are going to go see that movie. Anyway, if you are one of those people who's now believing that they have quietly canceled Blade, you've got a lot of anecdotal evidence backing you up. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, though, is this. I do not believe they've canceled Blade yet. And here's why. I think that Marvel, as of late, has adopted if we don't have something definitive to say, let's not say anything.
Exactly.
I think right now they still don't know what the status of Blade is. I think they're still working on getting the script right. Kevin Feige himself said they're still working on developing the script and trying to get it nailed down 100% right. Remember, Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds went to Kevin Feige, almost 10 times with their story pitches for Deadpool and Wolverine. And every time Kevin Feige shot it down until they finally went to him with the story that he gave the green light to. Took a while. Kevin Feige seems to have the attitude now that, he's got his authority back, that we're only going to make a movie once we're ready to make that movie and we have the right movie to make. So it is very feasible that they're just like, you know what? We don't have a release date for Blade yet because it's not going to make 2025.
And Bob Iger's not going to make that announcement. He doesn't want to be the one to get ridiculed for making an announcement that doesn't even.
That never comes to pass.
Yeah, so he's not gonna do that. I mean, he saw what's happening to Kevin Feige because he made that announcement.
Now remember this too, and it's not like Blade was the only thing not mentioned. Nowhere at D23 was Wonder Man mentioned, but we know that's coming.
And we were like, oh, that's going to be mentioned.
That's 100%. That's 100%. They've already shot it. Wonder Man is coming. They didn't mention it. They didn't mention Armor Wars. We know Kevin Feige already said that's one of the confirmed things that they are still doing. So, but there was no mention of Armor Wars.
Right.
So I think there is evidence there that if you believe they've canceled Blade, I don't think you're crazy for believing it. I would just caution everybody about that because them not saying anything about it may just be because they don't have anything to say right now. And it's not like it was the only project that wasn't mentioned. There were other projects not mentioned that we know are 100% coming.
I also want to believe that Marvel will get back into the state of things where they will throw their own little event like they did before, where they were confident in showing their slate. I want to get back to that Marvel, but it's going to take some time.
I don't think they're ever going to do that again.
You don't think they're going to be in that form anymore?
No. When Marvel did that big Phase 3 announcement presentation at the
El Cap.
At the El Capitan that I got to be at, that was prior to Disney deciding to make D23 a big thing for Disney.
Oh, so you think if Marvel does anything, it would be at D23 from now on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And listen, they're going to make announcements just throughout the year by putting out press releases and putting out things on social media. That's still going to come. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think, because I don't think you're crazy if you believe this, that Marvel has very quietly canceled the Blade film? Or do you believe that there's a lot of things they didn't mention? They probably just don't know when this thing's going to come out, so they didn't want to say anything right now. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about what I think was the biggest announcement at D23, which was Incredibles 3. And for only the 8th time in 5 years, there is a new member of the $1 Billion Club, only the second R-rated film in history to do it. A movie that a lot of people said it could never join the $1 Billion Club. Deadpool and Wolverine has crossed the $1 billion mark in just 3 weekends. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's trymiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends in Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, a lot of the stuff that happened at the D23 presentation on Friday night, and it was a great presentation. But a lot of it was stuff we knew, right? Like we know that Skeleton Crew is coming. We know a Fantastic Four movie is coming. We know, we know a Tron movie, like not a lot of announcements per se. A lot of trailers, a lot of footage, yeah. Only a handful of announcements. But to me, and I'm only speaking for myself, I mean, the announcement of Avatar, Fire and Ash as the official title of the next Avatar film, that was big. I love the title. I hated the title of the second Avatar, love the title of the third one. But easily for me, the moment of that Disney Entertainment presentation Friday night that got my heart most racing and me most excited was the out of left field, nobody saw it coming, the announcement of Incredibles 3. I mean, that's the thing that got me. It's an overused saying, but it's the one that got me that night to finally say, let's fucking go. I was so excited. And to add to that excitement, Brad Bird, they confirmed Brad Bird is doing the one making Incredibles 3. I am so stoked for this. The Incredibles, I mean, the first Incredibles, there's a lot of people out there who think that might be the best Pixar movie ever. There's a lot of movies that are up for that title. Toy Story 3, Up, WALL-E, Ratatouille. I mean, there's a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about that, but Incredibles is right up there. And the Incredibles franchise has been insanely successful. Insanely successful. Take a look at this. The first Incredibles movie came out, made $631 million at the box office with a 97% critic rating. Then Incredibles 2 comes out many years later with a 93% critic score and $1.24 billion at the box office. One of the highest grossing animated films of all time. And while I think Incredibles 1 was a little bit better, both of these movies are absolutely fantastic. Nom nom cookie. Nom nom cookie. I just died every time I heard him say that. It's fantastic. Both films, utterly fantastic. Dare I say, incredible. I've even been waiting on a Frozone spin-off movie. I want to see an adventure with him and his wife that we've never seen. The greater good I am the greatest good that has ever been in your life. It's one of the greatest lines in Pixar history. And dies every time that line comes up. But I'll be honest with you. I never thought they would do a third one. Considering it took them like 38 years to make number 2.
Well, 14, but yeah.
I never thought they would do a third one. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised when Bob Iger came back. He said, look, we have to have a mixture of original new stuff and sequels. There's a reason we build and develop IP. And so they announced Zootopia 2, it's going to be huge. They announced Moana 2, it's going to be huge. They announced Frozen 3, that's an automatic billion-dollar film. So it really shouldn't surprise us that they're going to give us Incredibles 3. And they got to do it soon because the voice cast keeps getting older.
Yep.
Now, I said this during the presentation. The only thing that I hope they do, because I'm not going to bring any check boxes of demands that I want them to do with the third movie. The only thing that I kind of hope they do is age up the kids a little bit. Because Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2, despite the fact that it was 14 years later, the kids were the same age. Jack didn't even get any bigger. Right? So what I do hope they do is just age them up a little bit. It's not like they need to be, Dash doesn't need to be married now or anything like that. I just like to see them maybe 2 or 3 years older at different places in their lives a little bit. But at the same time, I'd kind of love to see more baby Jack. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on that. But I am thrilled. This is going to be huge. It's going to be monstrous. And with Brad Bird doing it, I absolutely cannot wait. And listen, I heard the squawkers after they made the announcement of Incredibles 3, the boo birds out there, saying stuff like, oh, why is Disney only relying on sequels? I want to remind everybody of something. Zootopia, Moana, The Incredibles, and Frozen were all original films that were successful, so they made more. Disney, under their umbrella with Pixar and Disney Animation and the rest, they have continued to make original films. They've got Hoppers.
That's coming.
Yeah.
Which looks really charming. They got Elio
Yeah.
coming. They recently did Soul and Luca and Turning Red. All original, right? The key for Disney is not to just make originals or to just make sequels. The key for Disney is to do a mix of both.
Right.
Make originals, and when they make originals that become really successful and beloved, make more of them. It's not rocket science. And come on, who out there can honestly say, and I'm sure there's some, but not many, I'm not interested in Incredibles 3. Liars. Dirty, dirty liars. Why must you turn this show into a house of lies? Come on, everybody's going to be there. You make an Incredibles 3, everybody's going to be, I'm going to be there. And I have no doubt Brad Bird is going to do it again. Anyway, guys. Oh, yeah, Elemental, another great original one. That movie's awesome. I hope they do a sequel to that. Question is for you guys. What did you think about the announcement of The Incredibles 3? Are you as excited about it as me? Maybe you're one of those people who doesn't care about it. Do you think this was the best announcement at D23? Maybe you think there was something else that was bigger. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, back when they announced that Deadpool and Wolverine was coming, I said, this is going to be a billion-dollar film. And daily, I say, I had so many people writing into the show telling me I was crazy. Neither Deadpool 1 or 2 made $1 billion. It's too late. It's going to be R-rated. It can't make $1 billion. Oh, that's all we heard. All we heard for months was how Deadpool and Wolverine could not pass the $1 billion mark. To which I said, look, Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 didn't make $1 billion. No, but they made about $750 million. And when you average it out, and you don't think Deadpool now being in the MCU, Ryan Reynolds being a bigger star now than he was before, and Hugh Jackman coming out of retirement to play Wolverine with Deadpool, you don't think those things combined can just equal an additional $250 million? Come on, guys. Well, we've known it since opening weekend, but it is now official.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine has joined the $1 billion club, becoming only the second R-rated film in history
Unbelievable.
to hit the milestone. And they're about to pass the only other R-rated film, Joker. It's only about $50 million behind Joker right now. So it's going to pass that, become the #1 R-rated box office film of all time.
I can't believe, I thought, it was on track for like 40, 45 million this weekend. Bought domestic, it made like 50 something.
It made over $50 million this weekend, making it the third weekend in a row at #1. By the way, Ryan Reynolds' wife, the fabulous Blake Lively, she had a new movie come out this weekend called It Ends With Us, made $50 million. So Deadpool and It Ends With Us finished 1 and 2, which means that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively have become the first couple in 34 years to have the #1 and #2 movies at the box office. So big congratulations to Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively for It Ends With Us. Good on them for doing that. Deadpool and Wolverine also becomes only the 11th MCU movie to join the $1 billion club. Think about that.
Which is crazy. I mean,
Marvel has 11 films in the $1 billion club. It's only the 8th film to join the $1 billion club in the last 5 years. In 2024, 23, 22, 21, and 20, only 7 other films have joined the $1 billion club in 5 years. Want to put that in perspective? In baseball, when a no-hitter happens, it makes baseball history. ESPN will lead with it as a story. The news, the sports talk about no-hitter, no-hitter, no-hitter. In the last 5 years, so Jonathan tells me, there have been 43 no-hitters. 43 in the last 5 years. This is just the 8th film to join the $1 billion club. It's absolutely stunning. And as of right now, Deadpool and Wolverine is the number 48 biggest film of all time. In the next couple of days, where did it go? Where'd Joker go?
A little more.
There it
You
is.
go, 38.
In just a couple of days, it will pass Joker. It'll probably get into the top 30 of all time and becomes just the 55th film in history to put on the money green jacket and join that ever elusive $1 billion club. Again, only the second R-rated film ever to do it. And by the way, for all those people who were saying Disney's dead, Disney's turned off all the audience, Disney will never come back, they've got the #1 and the #2 movies of the year right now. Collectively as a studio, they're closing in on $4 billion they've made. They've got the #1 movie of the year in Inside Out with $1.5 million. And now they've got the #2 movie of the year in the next $1 billion installment in Deadpool and Wolverine. This is such a monumental win that it's absolutely insane. And seriously, for people who just think, oh, okay, yeah, so a movie made a lot of money. Guys, I really want you to appreciate the history that's been made here. It is about to become the highest grossing R-rated film ever. Ever. Remember how big of a hit Oppenheimer was?
Mm-hmm.
It's already passed Oppenheimer. I'm not saying it's a better movie than Oppenheimer. I'm just saying we all lauded and cheered. Of course we did. The amazing success and the huge opulent quality of Oppenheimer. In 3 weekends, Deadpool and Wolverine's passed it. And it's going to catch Joker in just a couple of days.
I have a question for you, John. Now that it's past $1 billion, is this really going to be it for these two? Because, is this one of those rare cases where even though it made a lot of money, you don't see that either one of them coming back? Or do you think?
This is what I still believe. It's what I believe. It's not what I know. Right. Okay. I believe that Ryan will be back as Deadpool, but I do not think there's going to be a Deadpool 4. I think Ryan will continue to appear as Deadpool in other movies, because for him to make a Deadpool movie, he is the main creative force. He is the main producer. He is everything. It's all encompassing and takes years of his life to do. That's different than showing up to Avengers Secret Wars and just showing up, putting on the costume and acting. So I do think we're going to see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I just don't think we're going to see a Deadpool 4. Again, I don't know that. That's just my guess right now. Just a guess, like any other fan. It could be right, could be wrong. I do think Hugh Jackman's done.
Right.
I think this was his swan song. At the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, when they're sitting on the bench and Ryan says to Deadpool, "So we'll see you around," and Wolverine says, "Probably not."
Oh.
I think that was him talking to the audience. Because remember, he was supposed to be done in Logan.
Right.
So he came out of retirement, came back, and then when Deadpool says, "We'll see you around," he says, "Probably not." I think that was him saying to the audience, "I'm now done." Now, the counter argument to that is in that same movie. Was it B-15? Is that the TVA agent's name? I think it's B-15.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Says to Deadpool and Wolverine, "You guys go and rest up. I got a feeling you're going to be needed again."
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right? I mean, so I don't think he's coming back, but that's in the movie too. And twice Deadpool had to say, "Till you're 90. So, I mean, I don't know. So my guess is no Deadpool 4, but we will see more Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in other films. And I don't think we're going to see Hugh Jackman back. But I ain't going to say that for sure, because you never know. Because remember, they were never going to make another Joker movie. And then the Joker became the first R-rated movie in history to make $1 billion and won a bunch of Oscars. Then all of a sudden they were making another Joker movie. So Deadpool and Wolverine making over $1 billion might have some discussions going on over at the Mouse House. But I said this before and I will say it again. And I'm not joking. There is one person who will be the decider as to whether or not there will be a Deadpool 4. And it's not Bob Iger, and it's not Kevin Feige, and it's not Sean Levy, and it's not even Ryan Reynolds. The one person who will be the one to decide if there's going to be a Deadpool 4 is Blake Lively, and I'm not kidding. Blake Lively will be the one to decide if they can do that again. Because the one thing that you can know about Blake and Ryan is that they both put their family first. They have a lot of rules set up in their marriage and in their life about making sure family stays at the center of everything. And even in a recent interview, Ryan Reynolds said, "I don't think I can do another Deadpool movie because A, my wife will divorce me, and B, my children will divorce me." I mean, and that really tells me at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Blake Lively. If Blake Lively says, "You know what? I'm going to have some free time this coming year. I can hold the fort down. Go ahead and go do another Deadpool movie." I really think it's going to be up to her. And as far as Hugh Jackman goes, well, as the movie said, he let himself go after the divorce. So I guess he can just decide that for himself. But I don't think Hugh Jackman, the dude's in his mid-50s now.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to keep eating 6,000 calories a day and doing 3-hour workouts a day.
Why not?
Right.
Makes you look good.
That's why he said he stopped after Logan. So I don't know.
I never started. So, you know, look at me.
Wow.
I never started the 3-hour a day workouts. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? I want you all as film fans to really take a breath and appreciate the history that's being made here. This is something there's only ever been said once before in film history that an R-rated film joined the $1 billion club. And think of all the big, huge, wonderful R-rated films we've had in history. Deadpool and Wolverine's about to become the biggest one of all time. Mm-hmm. The first Marvel movie in a while to join the $1 billion club. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. with that down, it's time for us to get to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. Now, before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Gametime. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Gametime. My wife Ann and I love going to events, whether they're comedy shows, concerts, an LA Lakers game. I mean, just the other night we went to go see Ronnie Chang and it was awesome. We love having these new experiences and new memories. And our sponsor Gametime makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Because prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to the show start time. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying event tickets. I couldn't believe how easy and most importantly, intuitively, the entire app works. Finding the event I was looking for couldn't have been easier. The way it lays out the map of the venue, letting you know exactly where the seats are that you're looking for, and how easy the process was to choose and buy those tickets. So don't worry if you think you're too late to get tickets to that big event you and your friend want to go to. They have last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. So guys, take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CAMPEA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CAMPEA, C-A-M-P-E-A, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And thank you to our friends at Gametime for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. You know, apparently during the commercial break, we just had an earthquake. Ray said, oh, we just had an earthquake. And both Jonathan and I looked at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
Because we're
Like nothing's moving.
nothing is moving. I didn't feel anything. But then I saw a bunch of people in the live chat saying, Southern California just had an earthquake. I'm like, we did, but Ray felt it.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, there's no earthquake. Laura texts me, earthquake. I'm like, we had an earthquake.
I know. What up? See how I'm
Which
treated?
tells us that Ray has the most sensitive butthole.
Yeah.
His butthole
Wow,
can
it's
detect
it's so tight. I
the
get
He even
all
watches
finest
movies with it.
tremors.
all those feeling.
He even watches movies with it.
Twisters and earthquakes.
Twisters and
My thing.
earthquakes.
All right, guys.
Anyway.
Let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Please. Mad Sinister McCall says, John, I'm an employee from the TVA and I found your variant. His name is Olympic winner Yusuf Dykek. Also, I can't wait for Terrifier 3. Art the Clown is a future horror legend. What 4 franchise horror characters are on your Mount Rushmore?
Well, it'll never be the Terrifier. Nobody watches it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I know.
it's got a very dedicated, tiny fan base, but it's a tiny fan base nonetheless. I mean, it's Michael Myers, it's Freddy, it's Jason, and I don't know if there's a 4th. Who would be the 4th? Maybe Chucky? Even though I'm not a huge Child's
Just
Play
because
fan.
they've been around for so long, maybe?
Yeah.
Or-
Something like that. Oh, by the way, just wanted to point out, of course, the Canadian won the gold medal at breakdancing. Did you see that, dude?
Must man.
No, my eyes were just transfixed on Australia's.
The Australia?
entry, so-
Yeah, that was too bad. But yeah, the Canadian dude, Wizard,
Wizard. Heck yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. So big hats off, of course, to my countrymen for winning the gold medal at the inaugural breakdancing competition at the Olympics.
The big whiz.
Canada wins.
I'm actually surprised we didn't feel that because that was a 4.7 out of Pasadena. So that was close. Crazy. Oh, well.
All right, what's next?
Your name says, I've discovered how to make popcorn more edible. He's making edible popcorn. Cinemark sells Mike's Hot Honey Dippers. Well, that ain't going to be for John.
Not for me.
So after I pour as much of the honey on the popcorn, I keep pouring butter into the dipper and get the remaining honey on the popcorn. How do you keep your fingers clean with all that honey all
Yeah,
over it?
that sounds unedible.
Like
Like, yeah, like what do you use, chopsticks to eat the popcorn?
your hands are going to be covered in sticky.
Yeah, that would be, and not in the fun way. I mean, that would be like really, really bad. Butter's good for me, man. Butter's good for me. I remember I was at AMC with, why am I freezing on the guy's name who plays Coulson? Clark Gregg.
Uh-huh.
I was at AMC in Burbank with Clark Gregg. And he's like, hey, do you mind if I grab some popcorn? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And it's the first time I've ever seen it. I've never seen anybody do this before. Apparently it's quite popular, but I've never seen it before. I handed Clark the popcorn, and then he grabs a box of Raisinets.
Oh.
And he starts pouring Raisinets into his popcorn.
That's like a trail mix then.
I've never heard of that before.
I've seen people do what's the one with the caramel in it? Chocolate covered with caramel. That's not
Milk Duds.
yeah, Milk Duds. I've seen them do a Milk Duds.
I put jalapenos sometimes.
Oh, I used to do jalapenos, but
You could put like M&Ms in there. It's all going to the same place.
Speaking of spicy popcorn, which John will not be, but AMC has Tennessee
Nashville.
Oh, yeah, Nashville hot popcorn.
They replaced my ranch popcorn with that.
They should do a mix so you could have both.
I'm about to bring in my own shakers.
All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, John, watching the Olympics made me realize why you plan to retire or why you're planning on retiring soon. 2028 Olympic breakdancing champion, baby. Canada represent.
I mean, it would be unfair. I mean, let the kids have the competition and let them win some medals. It would just be unfair if I entered.
Sense. That totally makes sense.
Because B-Boy Pisces comes into the circle.
Oh my God.
It's over, baby.
Pisces.
It's over if
Pisces.
B-Boy Pisces comes in there.
Fishing around.
I mean, if Australia made it to that stage, I think you can do it.
All right, what's next?
Carlos says, hey, John, you think Spider-Man will be in Secret Wars? He's an essential part of that storyline. I hope he is. I asked Christian Harloff and his crew, and they think so. You think they're setting up something towards that now with Spider-Man coming? I would expect.
I mean, I think everybody who's still around and even isn't around is going to be in Secret Wars. Now, listen, one of the things, always give this big caution. Never count on something because it was in the comics. Civil War was a very, very different movie than what the comic book story Civil War was. Age of Ultron was a very different movie than what the comic story was. Days of Future Past was a much different movie than what the comic book story was. Just because in the comic, that means, guys, listen, it means nothing. Marvel is going to make their best movie possible. They're going to take themes and take certain things from the comic book storyline. So do I think Spider-Man will be in it? Yeah, because I think everybody's going to be in it. But do I think he's going to play the exact same role? Like, for example, I don't think we're going to have a live action Miles. And ultimately, Miles is the one who gave the hamburger to Molecule Man. Right? And I don't think that's going to happen in it. So, like, will Spider-Man be in it? Yes. Will he play the exact same role in it that Spider-Man plays in the Secret Wars comic book story? It's doubtful. It's doubtful because they very rarely ever do. All right, what's next?
Twilight Boy says, I love you, John. You know I do. But I think your idea of Doom killing Morgan sounds comedically edgy. Plus, I don't see someone as methodical as Doom lashing out and killing a child. I think taking out someone like Captain Marvel is the way to go. Oh, you just don't like Captain Marvel.
Well, I think there's two things to do. First of all, it's only comical if you directed it. If you have the Russo brothers directing it, it would be dramatic and it would be powerful and it would be emotional, and you'd have entire audiences, theaters filled with audiences across the world weeping and crying and all that kind of stuff. If you don't think that, you lack imagination, because it would be profoundly powerful if done correctly. I also do believe you need Doom kill you. So there's the emotional element. But you also do need Doom doing something likened unto Thanos taking out the Hulk and Thor and Loki and the Asgardians at the beginning of Infinity War to set the bar for what his power is, right? How much of an actual threat he is. So I do agree that somebody like him taking out a Captain Marvel, or him, I don't think they do Hulk again because they've already used the Hulk for that. But taking out a Captain Marvel or taking out a Doctor Strange or taking out somebody along those lines, I think that's important too. But if you want to get the audience emotionally invested, again, I bring us back to the first John Wick movie. If you told people in advance, you're going to have this guy and he gets this little puppy and everybody loves a puppy because his dead wife left it for him and the puppy's so cute. And then somebody's going to come and kill the puppy. Everybody go, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But you know what? They did do that. And it set the emotional foundation for the audience getting on board with the vengeful wrath of John Wick after that. You do that right. Again, I'm not saying it's what they're going to do in this movie. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying if they did do that, it could be profoundly powerful if they did it and if they did it right. I'm not saying that they will. I doubt that they will, but it would be powerful. All right, what's next?
We got Twilight Boys back. It also doesn't show Doom's power and force nor his complexity. It just makes him out to be cartoonishly evil bully. I think Doom's introduction should show his sheer power and or why he'd be the hero of his own story.
Why you have the assumption that it's one or the other? Like, remember, Thanos is the same one who took out Hulk and then just took a helpless Gamora and just threw her off a cliff. He did both. He did both. It's not a one or the other kind of, and you got this, you seem to have this image in your head that Dr. Doom's just going to come walking into a room and Tony's daughter's going to be there and goes, "Oh, kids," blink, and she explodes.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you think, then you need to watch more movies, because that's not at all how they would do it. And again, it's not a one or the other thing. It's a lot of different things. Doom is going to do a lot in these movies to build up who and what he is. It's not just going to be a one or the other, and they're not mutually exclusive. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous, who says, "John, I just want to say thank you for all you do. I first started watching you from when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, and I knew nothing
Wow.
about it. And I looked up videos on YouTube and found a video of you and Schnepp explaining who they were."
You know what? It's kind of funny because it was Guardians of the Galaxy that led me to meeting Schnepp. Because Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out, and while I had read a few things, I didn't know a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody did. And so I called a buddy of mine who ran a big event in Hollywood called Comic Book Sundays, where comic book writers and filmmakers and just in general big geeks would get together a few Sundays a month and just kind of geek out together, right? Network and geek out together. So he was a friend of mine, and I got a hold of him and I said, "Listen, do you know anybody that knows a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy?" Because Marvel had just announced that they were going to do this movie, and everybody said, "Who?" And my friend said, "I know this guy. His name's John Schnepp. He directs a show called Metalocalypse. I think you and him would have a lot to talk about." And so he gave us each other's information. Schnepp gave me a call, and we had a great conversation, and we arranged for him to come on the show and talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And I remember after that show was done, we kind of hung around and we're like, that was a lot of fun. Like, we had a really good time doing that together. And it led to becoming one of the most prolific online partnerships I ever had was with Schnepp after that. And the rest was kind of history, all because of Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, "Disagree with you on killing Stark and Pepper's daughter. I don't really feel any attachment to her as besides her being a kid. Bigger impact would be if Doom is killing the new Avengers. Miss Marvel, Echo, I don't think it has to be Echo. Hawkeye Jr., Shang-Chi to have bigger impact."
Again, you're missing out. This is why fans aren't filmmakers and why I'm not a filmmaker. It's not one dimensional. You got to have multiple layers, multiple dimensions of things. It's not just one thing. So any bad guy will fight a hero. Any bad guy will do that. But if you also want to take something that's going to make him emotionally threatening, like there's nothing this guy won't do. Like the depth of his indifference, the depth or the magnitude of his laser focus on his ends and his goals, the heartlessness of him. Yeah, you want to see him beat up a big hero, but any 5-year-old can write that. You want to layer that with something that also makes him imposing and emotionally threatening, and to get the audience emotionally hooked into a film, you do something like that where he takes out a Pepper, or he takes out Pepper and her daughter, or something along those lines. Again, it would have the same impact that I believe the bad guy Reek killing John Wick's puppy at the beginning of John Wick. It would have that same kind of impact.
Reek.
It would get the audience thoroughly emotionally invested now in the taking down of this villain. Again, not on its own. Nobody's going to feel threatened by a guy who can just walk in and take out like some little girl. But as its own thing, separate from other demonstrations of his power, it could be incredibly effective. Again, I don't think they're going to do it. I'm just saying, if in the hands of like a Joe and Anthony Russo, done right, it would be incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Think back to Game of Thrones. Remember when Stannis Baratheon okayed the killing of his own daughter? Remember that?
Yes.
How galvanized was the audience of that show of this fucker's gotta die after that happened?
And then it turns out it's like, I guess I was wrong about you.
How galvanized? What was his main? Who was his hand? Was that was his name Stavros? The guy who then went on with Jon Snow? Stavros, right. How galvanized did the audience become rallying behind Stavros, knowing his heartbreak at the death of that little girl? You can say all you want. No, that wouldn't be good. But there are example after example in
Davos.
Davos, thank you. There's example after example in fiction that when you do something like that and you set it up right and you execute it right, it can become amazingly powerful. And if you don't see that, you don't see that. That's fine. There's nothing I can tell you that's going to change your mind. I'm just telling you it would be incredibly powerful. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, so funny coincidence about Avatar seemingly copying Avatar The Last Airbender. They had to change ATLA's name from Avatar to ATLA because when they went to trademark it in 2004, just Avatar was already taken by Cameron in 2004. That's how far back he had.
Yeah, we're kind of joking that with them now bringing in a fire tribe, you've had the Earth tribe in the first one, the Water tribe in the second one. We're going to get the Fire tribe, and Avatar 4 is going to be the Airbenders, the Airbending tribe. I mean, listen, Avatar and Avatar The Last Airbender are very, very different properties. But man, they're following some similar footsteps. They really are. All right, what's next?
Wesley Cunningham says, was not looking forward to Mufasa after I was on Lion King, but the trailer showed my single biggest issue from that film fixed. The faces are emoting. I know it was, well, dude, they used real lions. So, I mean, you can't, come on. I know it was a creative choice in 2019, but this helps so much with connecting the to dialogue for me.
Getting photorealistic lions to look like they're emoting is not just a creative choice. It's a technical limitation. That was 5 years ago, though. They can do a much better job of it now. Hey, listen, I got to say, I really did like that Mufasa trailer. I still don't think Mufasa is going to be a $1 billion film like The Lion King was.
Billy, baby.
But I got to say, it looked really good. That trailer looked really, really good. By the way, I mentioned this on the open mic yesterday, but let me throw this in there too. You know what was way better than I thought it would be? The Snow White trailer was far better than I thought it would be. I don't think it was the best trailer of D23. I still kind of think Skeleton Crew was the best trailer of D23. But I mean, that Snow White trailer, I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, it matched the vibe of the original like animation.
It did. And you know what? You know what it reminded me of? When they showed Stitch, because remember they showed what the CGI Stitch is going to look like in the live action movie? It's like, it's just like the animated Stitch brought into the real world. Still looks very CGI, sure, but that's what he looks like. When I saw the dwarves, I didn't think I would like them. But I watched that and I'm like, it's actually kind of perfect. They look just like the animated dwarves, but if they were CGI representations in a live action world. And listen, I don't think Gal Gadot, I think she's a tremendous human being, but I don't think she's the greatest actress. She looks perfect in this as the evil queen. I'm telling you, I'm just saying, I didn't have a lot of hope going into it, but if you're objective, I think that trailer looked way better than I thought it would. And I'm very, very curious to see how, now, the movie may be garbage. I don't know, but I'm now very, very curious to see how it'll look. All right. What's next?
Dildar the Glorious asks, has there ever been a movie mistake that drove you absolutely insane every time you see it? For me, it's Tony's eye injury moving from to his other eye in Iron Man 3. Drives me up a wall. That reminds me of Young Frankenstein, where he's like, wasn't the hump on the other side?
Yeah, that was constantly moving. Now, it depends on if you're talking about like practical mistakes or narrative plot holes. If we're talking practical mistakes, the one for me is in the original Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Dude, okay.
Were you going to say the same thing?
Does it have to do with a fly?
No, it's not
Okay,
the fly either.
okay.
Because that's not a mistake.
Not a mistake, but it drives me insane every time. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
where Balok is talking and you can
Just a
literally
little-
see the fly walk
It
into his
is-
mouth as he's talking.
Every time I'm like, dude, just move the fly.
No, but for me, it's in the bar after Indy comes in and sees Marion in the bar. And she goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. Come back tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah.
The camera's then on her sitting at a table. And she reaches into her shirt and pulls out, she's wearing around her neck the headpiece of the Staff of Ra. And she pulls it out because it's a necklace around her neck, and she pulls out the thing. She's holding it in front of her with the chain still around her neck. The camera then changes angles, and she's still sitting there holding the Staff of Ra, but the chain is no longer around her neck. It's just dangling in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the one that drives me crazy every time I see it. That's the editing mistake to me that always drives me crazy. All right, what's next?
All right. We got Bidora says, I think people look back on Mandalorian with rose-colored glasses. Everyone hated on season 2 until the final episode. Season 3 was just awful. Season 1 even has some bad episodes with 5 and 6. Don't understand them continuing a mediocre show as a movie.
Well, I mean, I think season 1 was great. I really do. And you are absolutely right about season 2. A lot of people were complaining about season 2 until they got to the last couple of episodes. I did not. I thought the season 2 was great. Everybody particularly complained about that one episode with the ice spiders. I thought that episode was awesome. And you know who directed that episode? The director of Ant-Man. Why am I freezing on his name?
It wasn't. No. Shoot.
I'm freezing on his name now. Anyway, the guy who directed Ant-Man, Peyton Reed.
Hey, Marie.
Yeah.
Michael Gonzalez was the first one to put it in there.
No, I was. Just kidding. No.
Peyton Reed direct. I loved season 2, but you are right. A lot of people were complaining about season 2 up until they got to the last couple of episodes, and of course Luke Skywalker shows up and everybody loves it. And yeah, season 3 was not good.
No, I got bored with season 3.
What's that?
I got bored on season 3.
Oh, season 3 was not good. Like, you know where they lost me? It wasn't even the Lizzo and Jack Black thing. That was actually to me a little bit charming.
That was silly, but whatever.
Yeah, it was kind of charming to me, to be honest with you. But no. Where I really had to roll my eyes and go, are we really at this point? Is they're conducting a murder investigation and they kill a robot and they pull out of the robot's pocket a business card to a robot bar.
Nice.
Maybe we should take our investigation there. And I'm like watching this going, did professional Hollywood writers write that? Oh my God. Like, that's where the whole season kind of lost me. He's carrying a business card of a robot drinking bar.
I mean, I didn't even
Let's go
really-
investigate.
I didn't really even like when like the kid got taken by the giant pterodactyl thing, and I don't know. It was just kind of weird.
There's the whole season was bad. It was just a bad but I mean, the first couple seasons I thought were great. All right, what's next?
Assorted musings. Watched Olympic breakdancing this weekend. I'm sure you were glued to your TV. Canada won gold as well in it. Let's go.
Guys, I highly encourage you. Like, even if you're not normally like if you want to see people do stuff with their bodies that you did not think was possible and you don't want to go to an orgy, go and look up on YouTube the gold medal breakdancing battle. It's This Canadian dude just did things I never thought was humanly possible. Like like back when I was a breakdancer, he's doing things that we would talk about, but could never actually be done. And this dude was doing all of it. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, after that new trailer, I have no idea which Shakespeare's plays Mufasa is based on. I went through his plays and I can't figure it out, unless it's just adapting the subplot from King Lear about Edgar and his illegitimate half-brother Edmund.
Is there anybody says he is mimicking a Shakespeare play?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he said anywhere that he was. I mean, look, you got the director of Moonlight making this. I think it's going to be profoundly dramatic. I'm really looking forward to it. The trailer was really good, but I don't believe him ever saying that this follows one of the great Shakespeare plays.
I mean, yeah, if anything, the first Lion King would be more like Hamlet, because the brother of the king had the king murdered, but I don't know.
All right, what's next?
B-Bunk says, hey, John, have you seen any of the breakdancing from the Olympics? Do you think you could have won the gold?
Well, look, if I had announced my entry into it, they could have just mailed me the gold.
Oh, geez.
And just saved everybody the time and hassle, right?
Oh, here we go.
It's like, no, it was amazing. The stuff they did was amazing. All right, what's next?
Your Name says, in the latest Snow White adaptation, was Oscar-winning makeup artist hired to make Gal Gadot not fairest of them all? Are we to believe she is not as beautiful as Rachel Zegler? We already saw them on screen together in Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing. When I talked about this on Open Mic yesterday a little bit, if you want to put Gal Gadot in a movie and say she is the second best looking person in the movie, that's not an easy task, because male or female, Gal Gadot is one of the sexiest human beings walking the face of the earth. She's stunningly beautiful. So is Rachel Zegler. That girl is just the personification of beauty. And she might be the best singer in Hollywood. I'm not saying the best singer in the music business, but she might be straight up the single best singer in all of Hollywood, which is something you got to get if you're going to do Snow White. But like Rachel, I remember when I first saw her in Steven Spielberg East Side Story. That's the Asylum version of West Side Story.
What did you call it?
East Side Story.
Story.
I remember when I first saw her in West Side Story. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. Like, yeah, I believe a guy would throw it all away for her. So there ain't going to be anything difficult to look at in this movie. Like, you're either going to be looking at Gal Gadot or you're going to be looking at Rachel Zegler, and either way, everybody wins. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, that footage of live action Stitch takes me right back to my childhood watching the movie and then the animated series. And the voice was perfect too. I don't know if they re-recorded the lines or are using the original audio, but it sounds perfect.
There was a very small sample size. I mean,
Yeah.
It was a very, very small sample size. But yeah, it looked beautiful. You know, my wife, Ann, had never seen Lilo and Stitch. She's like, why is everybody saying I'm like Lilo? I'm like, well, maybe we should sit. So just a couple of months ago, we sat down and watched Lilo and Stitch for the first time. She fell in love with that movie. And Lilo is my wife, Ann. So I am very curious and excited to see how they bring this to live action. It's going to be really, really cool to see. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says, John, I am also looking forward to the Saturday Night Live movie, but only if the previews and reviews show they got one key thing right. They cannot say live from New York, it's Saturday night in 1975. I don't think I'd not go to see a movie over one line, but
yeah, look, my friend, that would be a really petty reason not to go see a movie. Listen, Jason Reitman is making it. That's all I need to know.
yeah.
The guy who did Up in the Air, the guy who did Thank You for Smoking, the guy who did Juno, the guy who did the Ghostbusters movie, not the most recent one, but the one prior to that. I mean, Son of Ivory, all you had to tell me was he was directing it, and I'm on board. And that trailer looked awesome. Chevy Chase going, sorry, tripped over my penis. It's like one of the funniest things I've seen in a trailer in forever. This movie's going to rule. I cannot wait to see it. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety's back. Says that's because if you're doing a movie about the start of the show, they
They were called the Not Ready for Primetime Players.
yeah. As Howard Cosell had the rights.
Cosell.
Oh
Howard
yeah,
Cosell.
yeah. To the Saturday Night Live name for his own show. They bought the rights 2 years later when it ended. I'm sure they're
Yeah, so it should not be in the movie.
Yeah.
But if they do say it, that does not break the movie. It means a bad moment, but it doesn't break the movie.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right. Garden is back again. I'm happy use that name for the title, or I'm happy they use the name for the title. It's a title is just about marketing, but they should start with the correct name and either have a final scene, post credit, or end scroll, jumping the 2 years and have the start of the episode to the well-known phrase. Well, they named it that because people wouldn't know what they were talking about most likely if they weren't calling it that.
Yeah, and remember, the movie's not called Saturday Night Live.
Right.
It's called Saturday Night.
Right.
But I would also say this, Garden. This isn't a documentary, and it's not an educational film. So if they get some detail like that, like if they take a creative liberty and get a detail like that wrong, it's like, I'm sorry, it's not important. What's important is, do they make a compelling, fun, engaging movie about the final 90 minutes leading up to the airing of the first Saturday Night Live episode? That's the thing, right? That's it. If they get a couple historical facts wrong, that's not the important. This isn't a documentary. It's a narrative movie. And just like every narrative movie, they're going to take some creative liberties. And look, they will probably get that fact right that you're pointing out, Garden. They will probably get it right. But if they don't, if they decide to take creative liberty and don't do that, like they decide to use it anyway, it doesn't make the movie any better or any worse. Like, the key thing is they're just trying to make an entertaining movie. And if it was a documentary, I would agree. But since it's not a documentary, I think they can have some flexibility there. All right, what's next?
I'm often mistaken writes, the list goes Alien, Alien Covenant, Aliens, Alien Resurrection, Alien 3. If you think I'm wrong, come hug me, bruh. There's easier ways to ask for a hug.
I'm sorry, you thought Alien Covenant was better than Aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah, go hug him.
Okay.
Prometheus
listen,
isn't in here.
that is, again, a great example that all film is subjective. Movies hit us in different ways. And if Alien Covenant hit you in a way that made it a more enjoyable experience for you than watching Aliens, that's all that matters. I tremendously disagree, but that's okay. That's the fun part about being a movie fan. So if that's the way it works for you, that's the way it works for you. All right, what's next?
All right. Someone go hug. I'm often mistaken. Gone with the Cheddar says, well, John, people are talking about breakdancing at the Olympics, just not the way I thought they would. That Australian B-girl has the world laughing. I feel bad for her. Congrats to Canada for taking the gold.
You know what? I'll say this. Anne was the first one to show me the video of the Australian girl. And like everybody else, I cringily laughed at it. Like it's awful. And it's embarrassing and all kind of
And
stuff.
she qualified, right?
I don't know if there's qualifiers after that.
I don't
feel
know.
like they were just
She
like,
just got
"Come
in
on
because she was the best female break dancer in Australia.
Okay.
It's kind of like the way the Jamaican bobsled team got into the Olympics
All right.
because they're Jamaica's entry. But after I laughed, and I get people who are laughing at her. I do. I get it. Who among us,
Did you
again,
cry?
I think back to the Jamaican bobsled
Right.
team, right? Who among us, if you had a shot at going to the Olympics, and maybe you're not one of the best in the world, but you're the best your country's got. I don't know what the equivalent of that in Canada would be. I don't know if Canada, if there was an Olympic event of, well, surfing, let's say that. Not a lot of surfing in Canada that I'm aware of. But look, she's a girl who loved to dance. And by the way, as much as we all laughed at her, she's way better than any of you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And way better than any of us in this room. So while we sit in our chairs, comfy in our chairs, laughing at this girl, there are a couple things, and remember, I'm admitting I laughed too. I laughed at her. But there's a couple things I want us to remember. She is way better than you will ever be, or any of us in this room will ever be. But more importantly than that, she got to go to the Olympics. And while we can smugly, and again, I did this, I admit it, while we smugly can be sitting on our couches with a bag of Cheetos, laughing at that girl, you know what that girl's doing? She's competing at the Olympics. So you know what? As bad as it was, and compared to the other world-class talent around her, it was bad. Yes, all that's true. She did something I will never do in my life. And she did something that no one I ever know, well, except for Cody. Cody Miller did it. But that she did something none of you will ever do in your life. She got to compete at the Olympics. And she went out there, she put her heart out, she did the best she could, but she got to compete at the Olympics. And while we sit back with our bags of Cheetos and laugh at her, she wins. She wins. Because she got to do something 99% of us in this world will only ever get to dream of doing. Did she embarrass herself a little bit? Maybe. But who among us would not give up a lot to say, I went to the Olympics?
Not me.
And I did the best I could. I went out there, I put my heart on my sleeve, I gave it my best effort. Maybe I was the worst person there, but I competed for my country at the Olympics. And after I laughed at her, I thought about that a little bit. And yeah. So you know what? It's funny and you should watch it. You'll laugh. But I want you to, after you laugh, give the girl her flowers, man. She got on. She did something none of us will ever get to do. And she did it to the best of her ability, and she did it proudly. And maybe she looks silly at the end of the day, but she's a fucking Olympian. And that's more than I can say for any of us. All right, what's next?
Drew Gretsch says the only confirmed Star Wars shows are Skeleton Crew and/or Season 2, Ahsoka Season 2, confirmed by Disney back in January. Do you think the fact they haven't announced any more new shows could possibly signal Kennedy's departure?
No, even if Kennedy was leaving, business would still go on. Business would still continue. And by the way, they have not greenlit Ahsoka Season 2. They said they're developing it, but developing is something that happens before greenlighting. I'm still not convinced we're going to get an Ahsoka Season 2, to be honest. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying I have my doubts. But no, whether they announced, if they announced 100 things, that wouldn't be a sign that Kathleen Kennedy is staying. If they announced one thing and one thing only, it wouldn't be a sign that she's leaving. Because even if she is going, because remember, she was very, very obvious by her absence at D23. Kevin Feige went on stage. So she was very noticeable by her absence at D23. But not an abundance of announcements is in no way a sign that she is or is not leaving. That's my take on it at any rate. All right, what's next?
Joey says, is it fair to compare projects that don't have pre-established source material to those that do, i.e. two recent shows, The Acolyte and Umbrella Academy, have similar elements that are done better in UA?
No idea what you guys don't write in acronyms.
United Artists. Using these two as representations only, thank you.
A good show's a good show, whether it's based on previous IP or not.
There's stuff that's based on previous IP that was terrible. It was
there's stuff that's based on previous IP that's great, and stuff based on previous IP that's terrible. Same is true as purely original things. So, I don't hear anybody comparing Ahsoka to Umbrella Academy, but yeah, whether it's based on previous IP or not is kind of irrelevant. All right, what's next?
Tron says, I know we're talking a lot about Inside Out and Deadpool and Wolverine's box office, but shout out to Bad Boys 4 for crossing 400 million. What are the chances for a fifth film? I mean, this one kind of staggered.
I think a very good chance for it. I think a very, very good chance. Let's put it this way. I'll be a little surprised if they don't.
As long as they keep their budget in control.
Yep. By the way, speaking of milestones, we talked about It ends with us making $50 million. We talked about Deadpool making $1 billion. We talked about Borderlands flopping. By the way, very quietly, Despicable Me 4 crossed the $800 million mark.
I saw that it was lingering in the sevens, and all of a sudden, boom, it's
Yep.
over 8.
$800 million. It's
Twister's
not $1 billion,
Yeah,
but $800 million. Good on it.
and Twister's finally crossed 300, so
Heck yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, Twister's got into the $300 million range at last, so good for them too. So there's some really, really good stories in the box office. And then there's Borderlands.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Wong says, "Hey John, Deadpool, Wolverine, and Marvel Studios Blade have made a combined $1 billion." Well, Deadpool, Wolverine, and Blade have made a combined $1 billion. Yes, that is true.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Breaking news.
Thank you so much.
Deadpool and Wolverine and Borderlands combined for over $1 billion at the box office. Yep. Man, I'll be honest with you. I can see the arguments for believing it's been secretly canceled. I can see the arguments for believing that they're just not talking about because they don't have anything to announce, but I'm not going to be surprised if we find out they just cancel the whole damn thing. This has become this has become an embarrassment for Marvel Studios. They've never been embarrassed like this. They've never had a public thing like this. Like, they literally announced this film 5 years ago, and they've constantly tripped over their own swords. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they just quietly let it go. All right, what's next?
We got a mean with a two-parter. Love the excuse me. Love the D23 presentation, but please explain something to me, John. Why did Disney not just stream it live on Disney Plus? Excluding the exclusive footage, obviously, people shared photos and videos during the event, and full panel vids were available on YouTube afterwards, including directly from Disney. Streaming it would drive traffic to D+, and let fans enjoy the presentations live. It seems like a missed opportunity to enhance engagement and showcase their content directly on their platform.
Streaming D23 wouldn't have added a single new subscriber to Disney Plus, because only people who are subscribers to Disney Plus would even be interested in what's going on at D23. The reality is, the reason they don't stream it live is because they want to give you a reason to go to it. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's the same reason why in a lot of sports, do you know, in a lot of cities, they can't broadcast a local football game in the city that it's in.
Yep.
It's blacked out. Why? Because they want people to buy tickets in that city to go to the game. And while they do share all that clips and everything afterwards, that's all just meant to hype up the idea that they got to be there. To Disney, D23 is an event that itself needs to be celebrated and prompted. And the reality is, just live streaming the event, frankly, cheapens the event. It cheapens the event.
I could see them putting them up afterward, like
Yeah, like maybe a week or two later, something like that.
The D23 presentation.
You have to maintain something that this is a unique experience that you're only going to get if you actually come to D23. And so quite frankly, I think if they just live stream the event, so anybody anywhere can just sit home, pop up on YouTube and watch it, I think it cheapens the D23 experience for them. And I think they're trying to make the actual in-person, because remember, ultimately at the end of the day, Disney at its core is a physically in-person kind of company. Their main bread and butter is not Marvel. Their main bread and butter is parks and cruises and experiences. They are an in-person kind of company, and they want D23 to be that as well. They want it to be a big marquee thing, and you cheapen it if you just live stream it out to everybody, I think. So that's probably why they don't do that. And believe me, they have a lot of people getting paid a lot of money to study these things, and the conclusion they come to is that it benefits them more if they really emphasize the live in-person experience. All right, what's next?
Wesley Cunningham is back. I was a little surprised that no Wonder Man, Shang-Chi, etc. at D23, but you think it's more so not talking about anything post-Secret Wars yet for length of the panel, plus keeping focus on the rest of the current saga?
I think it has more to do with this. They simply don't have time to talk about everything. Remember, that panel was supposed to be 2 hours. Ended up being over 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
How are they also going to talk about Wonder Man or Armor Wars or Shang-Chi or the Rey Star Wars movie or Doctor Strange 3? I mean, they simply had a limited amount of time, and they decided which are the things that do we really feel we need to give a big push to right now. We got a lot of time to give a push to Shang-Chi. They obviously feel they've got a lot of time to give a push to Wonder Man or the Ray movie or something like that. They focus more on the stuff that they think they needed audience awareness of right now. And I think that's why they chose the ones that they did. All right, what's next?
We got Wesley who says, while not strongly against it as John, I do limit 3D to a few IMAX 3D blockbusters to at least see it done well. Likely won't be in time for Fire and Ash, but think Cameron is working on No Glasses 3D by Avatar 4 or 5. Any work through the grapevine about it, or word through the grapevine about
A
it?
lot of companies have been working a lot of years to try to get true glasses-less 3D. And there was a Nintendo, there was an actual game system that actually had a little bit of that, but it's not something you could scale to a movie screen. That is going to be the event horizon, I think. When some company cracks that code to have 3D in a movie theater where you don't have to put on those stupid glasses, that's going to change the industry. And I'm sure there are many companies, including James Cameron is probably financing some research into it. They would love to have it. I personally don't like 3D, but if they gave me a glasses-less 3D experience, I'd be very curious to check that out.
I think they would have to do something. I think it might require new screens, though, so I don't know that the infrastructure...
Yeah, I mean, so like, what's the technology mean? Does it mean a completely new screens for all the theaters are going to do it? Is it a new kind of projector? I mean, who knows? Nobody's been able to crack the code yet, but when they do, it's going to change the game, I think. All right, what's next?
Chris Hunt says, saw Nickelback on Friday, and before they went on stage, they showed the trailer for their Netflix documentary. Like, I'm already there to see Nickelback, and I was probably going to watch the documentary later anyways. Just play how you remind me already.
Well, I mean, I get it. They've got something coming out, and they want to promote it.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. It's not like you went to a Nickelback concert, and before they started the concert, they showed you a commercial for a Nickelback concert.
Yeah.
That would be like AMC doing their stupid AMC ads before seeing a movie in AMC when you're already in an AMC. But the documentary promoting a movie they got out, that's a little bit different. I could understand that. I would forgive that.
Yeah. What I don't forgive is you just had me defend Nickelback, so thanks for that. Raymond Verada says, though breakdancing will not be part of the LA Olympics, please redeem the sport by showing how it's really done. For the love of the filthy, why did they let Ray Gun compete? I hope the Australians don't bring her back at the Brisbane. Well, I mean, there's going to be other competitors. 32? That's a long time.
Have they officially said that breakdancing is not going to be a part
It's not coming to LA. They're not featuring it.
I have not heard that.
I heard it, I think, yesterday. I think it was announced.
Because you think anywhere, LA would be a place to do it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
Listen,
I think they had other sports they wanted to include, so.
if she's the best female breakdancer that Australia has, then she's the best female breakdancer Australia has. You let her go. So anyway, there's that.
What if she's the only female breakdancer?
Well, then, again, it's like the Jamaican bobsled team,
yeah,
man.
yeah, go ahead and go.
Or Eddie the Eagle. Ski jumper for England. All right, what's next?
Sad, strange little man. Do you guys have a favorite Pixar Easter egg? Like how Dineco gas stations in Toy Story is the sponsorship in Cars, or how the Luxo ball and A113 appear in each film? I give it to John Ratzenberger as a voice cameo until Soul when he's a character model.
To me, I think my favorite one was in the recent Inside Out 2. It's in the back in Joy's bunk in her bedroom, or so not in Joy's, in Riley's bedroom. She's got a Four Town poster up, which is, of course, the big boy band of Turning Red. That's kind of the MacGuffin of the entire Turning Red movie. So that to me was my personal favorite. I loved that one. All right, what's next?
Bussin' Poots says, on a scale of Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio to Sir Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella, where do you anticipate the live-action Lilo and Stitch and Snow White to land? Holding optimism for both, because I love both properties. It's crazy we get both in 2025.
My answer today is different than I would have given prior to seeing that new trailer. I think the Snow White movie is going to be really good. Yeah, after that trailer. Now, I don't know this. It could be terrible. It could be the worst film of all time, but after watching that, that was a really good trailer. And it's given me a lot, because that trailer captured a lot of the magic of Snow White for me. So the Lilo and Stitch one, though, I still have doubts. Like, from the moment they announced it, I'm just like, I don't see how you do that movie in live action. So I've got my doubts about Lilo and Stitch, but I am surprisingly enthusiastic about the chances for Snow White. All right, what's next?
Tron says, after the failure of Borderlands, should we be worried about Legend of Zelda with Avi Arad producing? Yes, Nintendo will be involved, and Wes Ball is a good director, but don't understand why they went to him to produce of all people.
He's the guy who produced the Academy Award-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And remember, he's not the one telling the story. That's not what the producer does, right? The producer is one who gathers the pieces together. And if the pieces are Lord and Miller, or if the pieces in the case of Legend of Zelda is Wes Ball, who just killed it with his Planet of the Apes movie, then I've got a lot of belief in it. Like, it comes down to having a fundamental understanding about what the producer does. And again, if you want to bag on a producer for having something that's bad, remember, this producer just won an Academy Award for a couple of his films. So it's really, the bigger question to me is, who's the director and who's the screenwriter? That's always going to be the bigger question than who the producer is. The producer is an important function to play in making a movie, yes, but he's not part of the creative part of making the movie. So I have no worries at all about The Legend of Zelda because Wes Ball is the director of it. All right, what's next?
Dirty Diana says, happy Monday. I never imagined I'd live to see the day that Lucasfilm Disney would acknowledge MJ's Captain EO ever again. But then Fuzzball shows up in the Skeleton Crew trailer, and now it's like EO is canon to Star Wars. OMG, love it.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Well,
was there a character in that trailer that was also in
like a little elephant, but it's a different elephant from Captain EO. This was the...
That wasn't even an elephant. That's I think that's the same race as Max Rebo.
It is. Yeah. It is the same. It's a different.
Yeah.
This is a different.
It's not an elephant or anything.
This is a little elephant character from EO, but yeah, it's not the same.
All right. What's next?
I already read that one. Let me scroll up. Joe Adonis says, hi, John, Jonathan, Paris Ray. Well, Kathleen Kennedy showed up at D23 to honor Disney legend John Williams. Sadly, he was not there to receive it in person. Kathleen said that John is the greatest composer of all time. Is she right?
Yep. Yep. And like greatest composer in the movie industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he's the greatest composer of all time, period, but for the movie industry, yeah, ask any composer in the music industry who the greatest of all time is. They're all going to tell you it's John Williams. I am worried about John Williams because he didn't show up to his John Williams Maestro of the Movies concert.
And he was supposed to just even like be there for a little bit, wasn't he?
And he wasn't there at all.
Yeah.
And now he wasn't able to show up to this. So I'm worried. I'm honestly a little bit worried. So here's hoping he makes a triumphant comeback here soon. All right, what's next?
David says, hey, John, be careful. Just an hour ago, I've heard that someone had successfully hacked Paramount and could soon be leaking a version of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yes, the full movie with unfinished CGI anytime now, even though there's still no trailer. I don't know why we have to be careful, but okay.
Like complete, utter assholes who would do shit like that. Like you're like, if you're watching this and you're like you're a fucking loser. You're an absolute pathetic fucking gutter dwelling fucking asshole loser. So like just go, hide in a corner and, just stay away from the public. Anyway. All right. What's next?
Let's see. Matan says, I feel that Disney used the money from recent success to fund Auteur's personal projects. Searchlight needs to do more stuff. Outside of Taika, no successful Marvel director made a personal film under Disney. It isn't a sign of a healthy industry. I guess like
that's nonsense. That's utter nonsense. Listen, Disney's always taken the money they've made from their bigger projects and funded smaller stuff. Don't forget, they fund a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And listen, most directors, once they hit certain levels of things, they want to continue to do certain levels of things. Like, Christopher Nolan isn't about to go back and do a $15 million coming of age story about when he was a teenager. Christopher Nolan's going to continue to make these big, huge, imaginative, monstrous films. That's because that's just where he's at now. Yes, every once in a while you're going to get an Academy Award winner like Taika Waititi who's going to want to make Next Goal Wins, which wasn't very good. But for the most part, like, yeah, again, you're not going to see a lot of these big directors suddenly go back and make these small little indie style films. It happens from time to time, but not often. Mm-hmm. What is the sign of a healthy industry is when you get studios like a Disney who then fund the smaller stuff, even if it's not the bigger directors doing it. And they continue to do that, and they probably always will. All right, what's next?
Mike P says, hi all. Recently watched Taxi Driver for the first time. I understand why people think this movie is great, but personally, I think it's a miss. No idea why. For me, it's the ending. Spoilers for 40-year-old movie. I felt like we were supposed to be happy Travis was back in society, but the guy literally tried to assassinate someone before taking out the gangsters. It just felt weird. If you can remember the ending, can you explain to me what they believe was intended with this ending? I think you're expecting him to become a hero at the end, and that wasn't the point.
No, and that's not the point. Like the whole idea, the idea of it sounds to me like maybe you were looking at the movie. And look, we all look at movies through our own lenses, right? We all do that. That's part of what makes the movie so wonderful and part of what makes movies so subjective. But I think you're kind of maybe looking at Taxi Driver through the lens of a 2024 movie. Taxi Driver is really more of a movie about society and a particular character, like this rich, brilliant character in that society and how it's affected him and how he wants to affect it. It's not a moral of the story kind of movie by any stretch of the imagination. But then again, I'm not going to try to talk you into liking the movie. You watched it and it didn't work for you. Nothing wrong with that. But I think you're looking for intentions from Martin Scorsese that were never really there with him making the movie. So that's all I would have to say to that. All right. But hey, good on you for going back and watching that movie, man. More people should go back and watch some of those classics. Mm-hmm. All right. What's next?
Hot Rod Todd. After Borderlands stellar weekend, if I am Nintendo exec, I'm on the phone with Columbia Pictures demanding they take Avi Arad off the upcoming Legend of Zelda project. That producer's body of work resembles a debris field from a crashed plane.
So his Academy Award for making Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse doesn't mean anything? I'm not an Avi Arad defender, by the way. But again, it constantly shows me that the average film fans do not understand the role of a producer. And again, if you want to just bring up and cherry pick the failures, you're going to have to go back in and also bring out the films that he's made that's worked tremendously well. And what you can't do, here's what weak-minded people do. Weak-minded people, like here's what a lot of weak-minded Kathy, and remember, I've been up for 5 years, I've been saying Kathy Kennedy needs to leave Lucasfilm, but weak-minded people will go, oh yeah, all the Star Wars stuff that's been bad, that's Kathy Kennedy's fault. All the Star Wars stuff that's been good, well, that had nothing to do with Kathy Kennedy. It's like, no, that's the sign of a really weak-minded person. If you're gonna call out the losses, which you should, you also have to give credit for the wins. And I give Kathy Kennedy all the credit in the world for the wins, but that doesn't change my position. I still don't believe that she should be there under that thing. And so with somebody like Avi Arad, it just becomes, here's the problem. There's a lot of film fans, and I've included myself in this. We've all done this. All of us have done this. This is a bad trait in all of us. There's something that's trendy, and we think we sound smart or cool by repeating what the trendy thing is. Avi Arad sucks. Anything he does sucks. Well, then just because. But have you actually looked at his entire filmography? He's got some horrible misses. Make no mistake. But he's also got Oscars. He was the one on stage accepting the Academy Award for Best Animated Picture. That's his movie. He's the producer of it. So you got to give credit, but also, again, understand what the role of the producer is and understand what the role of the producer is not. So you just got to keep that in mind. All right. What's next?
Anonymous says Ballad of the Witches Road versus the Like a Prayer Chorus and Go.
Oh, the Like a Prayer Chorus is way better, but I really did like that. Catherine Hahn came out with the cast and sang the Witch's Road song.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was pretty cool. That was not as good as the Like a Prayer thing, but it was pretty cool on its own. All right, what's next?
CPU says, so, excuse me, I'm still got a cold too, guys. Not a cold, but a cough. So I once again got told by the nurse for watching open mic last night. Once again got told off by the nurse for watching open mic last night. Side note, I'm down another 4.4 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, CPU wrote in
Oh, and
yesterday.
$50, thank you.
Thank you.
CPU wrote in yesterday on open mic to let me know that he was getting in trouble from the hospital staff for staying up and watching the John Campea show,
Oh.
which is as good of a reason as any to get yelled at by the hospital staff. But in all seriousness, in your recovery is serious. Follow your health provider's instructions. It's important. Put your health first. The shows will still be there for you to watch later on. Then come on back and watch them. Take care of yourself first, man. You're the first priority. All right. What's next?
And then Anonymous with a $20 tip. I'm looking forward to it. It was Agatha all along show, but do you think we will have any cameos and who might show you?
I really don't care if there's any cameos. I don't give a shit about cameos. All like, hey, are there characters? By the way, even when you're talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, Wesley Snipes is not a cameo, and neither is Channing Tatum. They're legitimate supporting roles in the movie.
Yeah, the characters in it.
They're characters in the movie. They're not cameos. But anyway, that being said, I don't generally care about cameos. If any character shows up in a movie, that's cool if they play a role in furthering the narrative. Whether it's a tiny little cameo or a small supporting role, it's all fine. But other than that, I really don't care if Agatha all along, it's like, oh, good, Spider-Man. I don't really care about that stuff at all.
Maybe Randall Park or Kat Dennings.
But that would make sense because they're connected,
Oh yeah.
right? Because that's where we found Randall Park, was at Eastview.
I
That
just
was,
wa- I just
what
want
was
to
the name
see
of the town? Eastview, East Side, East
Something like
Vale,
that.
something like that. Because they were there. So it could make narrative sense for them to
Westview.
actually be in there. What's
Was it
that?
Westview?
Westview or Eastview or whatever.
Yeah.
There were two different towns. So that would make sense. So I'd be totally down for that. I'm down for any character popping up as long as it makes sense for them to be there. All right, what's next?
Oh, it was, Westview.
Westview, okay.
Yeah. CPU says, I was wondering if the D23 will lead to an uptake in Disney Plus subscriptions.
Here's the thing. Anybody who really cares about D23 is probably already a Disney
Already a
Plus subscriber,
subscriber.
right? So, I mean, maybe the announcement of certain projects and new things coming and that kind of stuff, but I don't know that D23 itself leads to new subscribers for Disney Plus. Because again, I think I got to assume 99% of the people who are interested in D23, look, if you're that interested in D23, you're probably a Disney Plus subscriber already. So that's just my guess. I could be way wrong about that. It's just a guess. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, John and crew, do you think the Razzies will even bother nominating anything this year? Or should they just give Borderlands all the awards right now? Yikes on bikes. What a debacle.
It ain't the worst movie of the year.
I mean, you still have Madam Web. Was this year, right?
Well, yeah, well, it's not just Madam Web. Like, I don't even know that Borderlands is bad. It's a bad movie. But I don't even know that I'd say it's like one of the top 5 worst movies of the year. It's bad, but I've seen worse this year. There are some redeemable things. There are some entertaining moments in the movie. Not enough to make it a good movie by any stretch of imagination. It's a bad film, but I don't think it's that bad. So will it get nominated for Razzies? Yes. I don't know if it's going to win any Razzies, to be honest with you. All right, what's next?
Imagine not being good enough to win an Oscar and not bad enough to win a Razzie. Parmita says, hey guys, I love that Disney is continuing Daredevil, but I got to say, I'm still bitter they canceled everything to begin with. Feels like a pointless thing to do in retrospect. Also, I think the D Plus shows just aren't good as what they had before.
Well, Marvel didn't cancel the stuff. Netflix did. Like, you got to remember that. Also, while, I'll say it, I think WandaVision is better than anything they had on Netflix. I think Daredevil on Netflix was better than most stuff on Disney Plus, except for WandaVision. But pretty much better than everything else. But not everything. You know, we tend to romanticize stuff later. Guys, the Netflix Marvel stuff had some real shitty stuff too. Iron Fist, seasons 1 and 2. Luke Cage season 2 was terrible. I'm sorry, but it was. I love Mike Coulter, but after the first half of season 1, that show went right to shit. I am not a fan of the Jessica Jones series. Particularly season 2. I thought it was pretty bad. So yeah, Netflix had Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, and it had Punisher season 1 and 2, which I thought all 5 of those seasons were fantastic. But let's not over romanticize the Netflix Marvel era, because while they had some remarkable stuff, they also had a lot of shitty stuff. And I think we tend to forget that sometimes, because we think about the Netflix Marvel era and all we think about is Daredevil. And if for all you're going to think about is Daredevil, it was awesome. But they also had Luke Cage. And listen, a lot of people didn't like the Defenders. I personally did, but I know a lot of people didn't like the Defenders either. And again, I think there's some stuff on Disney Plus which has been truly horrible, but they've had a few things that have been really good. I think Ms. Marvel was fantastic. WandaVision, I obviously think, is one of the best things they've ever done. So I think it's important to look at it as a whole and not just cherry picking out certain things if you're going to evaluate it. All right, what's next?
Logan Vaughn says, every time I watch a comic book movie, I think about Schnepp. I love to imagine his thoughts in movies. Which superhero movie would Schnepp have loved the most since he passed? Infinity War, Endgame, No Way Home, Deadpool, and Wolverine, etc. Did he not see
I think he saw Infinity War.
He just didn't see Endgame.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't see Endgame. Gosh. I mean, he would have got a big kick out of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to say. I mean, I still to this day have that thought. Whenever I come out of a comic book movie, I wonder what Schnepp would have thought about it. Like, I often think, oh, Schnepp would have loved that, or Schnepp would have hated that, or whatever. But I mean, definitely. I think you were able to ask the big man. He said, hey, if you had a choice to have one movie you never got to see, which one would it be? He probably would say Endgame. I mean, the final chapter of this 12-year, 20-plus film buildup, I think probably that's the one he probably would have wanted to see the most. All right, what's next?
Logan Vaughn is back and says, if you could take a week-long vacation in a fantasy world movie, where and why, I'd pick the Shire. It's a beautiful countryside, and the hobbits spend most of their time eating, drinking, and smoking. I think the Shire would be so pleasant and peaceful.
I agree, but if my dream vacation spot involves water. Not that I have to be on the water, but I like to be by water. Looking out my window and seeing water. So I'm going to guess in peacetime, Pandora of Avatar. That would be a gorgeous place to vacation. So I would say peacetime Pandora. That's where I would go. All right, what's next?
Cody Hunt Films says, going to see Lawrence of Arabia for the first time. There's a 4K restoration playing at AMC tonight. Excited to see this classic. However, I've never seen a film that was 4-hour runtime. What other classics do you wish you could see on the big screen?
No, that's the one. Actually, Jonathan, you and I were talking about this last week. That Lawrence of Arabia, I think, is one of the greatest films ever made. And I've never seen it on the big screen. I've gotten to see the Ten Commandments on the big screen. I've gotten to see Ben-Hur on the big screen. I've gotten to see Spartacus on the big screen. The one left for me that I really, really want to see on the big screen is Lawrence of Arabia.
And there is a built-in intermission with Lawrence of Arabia, so you'll have a break in between there.
All right, how many do we have left?
Just one.
Okay, great. Last question of the day.
Logan Vaughn says, my issue with the 2019 Lion King was the near shot-for-shot remake thing. The movie was absolutely gorgeous, but it didn't work for me. That's why I'm jazzed about Mufasa. That it's that top-level animation, but with a fresh story. I predict $1 billion for it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get $1 billion. I hope it does. I don't care what anybody else. I loved that Lion King movie. That 2019 Lion King movie. Again, if you're just going to go into it and compare it to the original was better. And so it's not going to compare well. But if you just go in and evaluate the movie on its own merits, I thought it was beautiful. I almost wept. I remember me and Aaron Cummings went to go watch it, and Aaron several times through the movie, the 2019, was like weeping out loud. I nearly broke down and wept several times. As good as the original Lion King? No. But I think it was a wonderful movie on its own. Beautifully told, beautifully executed. I didn't love everything about it, but I thought it was a really, really great movie and deserving to be the #1 grossing animated film of all time. And I like that. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the guys in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Hey, see you tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
My name's John Campea. We'll see you tomorrow. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.